So a federal court just agreed with the ATF that force reset triggers are in fact machine guns under the NFA, and therefore the court granted a TRO against a company called Rare Breed Triggers. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, I actually want to mention that the Gundies voting is currently open. It's going to end very soon. I'm once again nominated in the category of top two-way voices. If you recall, last year we actually won here on the channel the top two-way voices. I would love for our channel to win once again. I think it would reflect well on what we are doing here as a community on this channel. So if you think I deserve a vote, I would appreciate your vote. I will leave a link down below in the detail section and the comment section. But regardless, thank you guys so much for all of your support. How's it going, everyone? My name is Anthony Miranda. I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California with an emphasis on Second Amendment rights. My goal with these videos is not to provide you any legal advice, but instead to give you greater insight into the inner workings of Second Amendment litigation and help you understand what's currently going on in the battle for our right to keep and bear arms. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video we will be discussing how a federal court just agreed with the ATF that force reset triggers are in fact machine guns and therefore fall under the regulations of the NFA and GCA. The case we will be discussing in this video is US versus Rare Breed Triggers LLC. And in this case, a federal court judge just granted the government their request for a temporary restraining order, which will block the company from selling both their force reset triggers and other products as well, like the wide open trigger. Now for this issue, I need to lay some groundwork because this has been a multiple year saga between the ATF and Rare Breed Triggers. Back in July of 2021, the ATF sent out a cease and desist letter to Rare Breed Triggers. In that letter, the ATF claimed that in their eyes, the Rare Breed FRT-15 force reset trigger meets the NFA and GCA's definition of a machine gun. Because of this, the ATF claimed that those triggers were subject to the registration, taxation, and possession restrictions as if they were actually machine guns. Also, the ATF claimed that the possession of those triggers outside of the GCA and NFA's restrictions would subject people and customers of this company to criminal penalties and fines as well. In the letter, the ATF told Rare Breed Triggers to cease and desist the manufacture and transfer of the triggers and to contact the ATF so that they could figure out what to do with the triggers that had already been sold to customers. This issue was not isolated just to this company, Rare Breed Triggers. Soon after Rare Breed Triggers got the cease and desist letter, there were reports that the ATF also went after other companies like Big Daddy Unlimited and their WOT trigger. Now, Rare Breed did file a lawsuit against the ATF, and originally the lawsuit was filed in the Middle District of Florida, but ultimately that case was thrown out by the court and the judge in that case because there were allegedly some filing errors. Now, subsequent to that and the case being dismissed in Florida, Rare Breed then filed a new lawsuit, a new case in a federal court in North Dakota. I believe recently also that case was thrown out because of a lack of venue. So that case that was refiled in North Dakota, I believe, was thrown out. And then there was the option for them to go back to Florida. And I believe there was some indication that the lawsuit would once again be filed in Florida. However, the case we're going to be focusing on in this video was not filed by Rare Breed. In fact, it was filed by the government, the US government, against Rare Breed, and it was filed in the Eastern District of New York. In the lawsuit, the government alleges that the Rare Breed triggers that are being sold are in fact machine guns under the NFA and GCA. The government also alleges that Rare Breed has engaged in mail fraud, wire fraud, making threats to the ATF and federal courts and judges as well, along with other misconduct that they are now using to seek a TRO and a preliminary injunction against Rare Breed Triggers. Now, I'm going to pull out some language from the complaint, from the request for the TRO, from the granting of the TRO. I'm not saying that any of these things are 100% actually what happened. Instead, this is just what the government is alleging in their lawsuit and what is being used to actually grant that TRO by the court. So first, the government claims that Rare Breed illegally continued to sell Rare Breed triggers and also the BDU WOT triggers, which the company Rare Breed Triggers actually won in their patent lawsuit against Big Daddy Unlimited. There's also indications that they engaged in mail fraud by putting on the packages that there was no association with Rare Breed. They didn't indicate on the outside of the packages that it was coming from Rare Breed Triggers. However, I believe, packing slip inside the packages did indicate that they were coming from Rare Breed. And the government claims that Rare Breed sold almost 3,500 of these WOT triggers in this specific way that they are claiming is mail fraud. There were also some allegations in the complaint that on August 27th, 2021, the ATF in fact received a phone call. The caller is stated to have threatened the ATF and threatened to come down to their office and to bring a rocket launcher along with him. And then also they indicate that that phone call that happened on August 27th was actually originating from the phone number which is associated with the defendant Maxwell's law office. Also, there are some allegations that at the start of the Florida litigation, the judge stated in that case that he had received some threatening phone calls. Without accusing any of the litigants before him, the district court judge called the harassment inappropriate. And again, there were some indications that maybe that was actually coming from rare breed triggers and the defendants associated in this case. There were also some allegations that when the ATF had issued a search and seizure warrant to the defendants, and they actually went to a manufacturer of these triggers, third generation machining, to take that company's triggers and various parts. There are some allegations that the government claims that the defendant here stormed into the facility without authorization of third gen machining, loaded a bunch of boxes that were containing triggers and various parts that the company had actually originally set aside to give over to the ATF in accordance with the search and seizure warrant. Now, the ATF ultimately, I guess, did eventually get to him. They stopped him along with local authorities in New Mexico, and then they seized about 1,000 FRT triggers and 15,000 parts and components that were in the U-Haul that he had loaded. So again, those are all allegations brought forward by the government. You can take them for what they are. They're just in the complaint. They're in the motion for temporary restraining order and also the granting of the TRO. And it's all these allegations and arguments together that are being used to request the TRO from the court. And essentially they're requesting that the court there bar the company from being able to sell these products because of this type of misconduct. And the district court judge, again in New York, did in fact grant the TRO. In granting the TRO, the judge found that Rare Breed knowingly and intentionally conspired to defraud the government and to circumvent the NFA. The court also found that there was probable cause to believe that the defendants failed to register the FRT-15s and mislabeled packages and sold them through the mail in a way that was mail fraud. Therefore, the court granted the TRO. Now, also, there is going to be a preliminary injunction hearing that is set. But the likelihood is, since the court has already granted the TRO, all indications are that they will likely also grant the preliminary injunction against Rare Breed triggers. So like I've stated in the past in prior videos, the ATF through that cease and desist letter has taken the position that these types of triggers are in fact machine guns in violation of the NFA and GCA, and they will be taking actions against all companies and also all customers and possessors of these items. So keep that in mind. That's very important. Despite what you hear companies tell you, that is the current position of the ATF. And also through the granting of this TRO, that is also the position of the federal courts as well right now, at least this federal court coming out of the state of New York. So I just wanted to put out this video because a lot of you have been asking me what's going on with the Rare Breed triggers issue, what's going on with some of these lawsuits. And that's kind of the recent update where a federal court has in fact granted a TRO against Rare Breed triggers, agrees that these triggers are in fact machine guns under the NFA, and that Rare Breed triggers has engaged in some sort of misconduct, and therefore the court has granted a TRO halting the sale and purchase and the dissemination of these triggers. So that's kind of the update. If anything else develops, I will let you guys know. Also, if you like this video and you would like to support this channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signal to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.